Did Primoz Roglic save his energy for the final time trial?
Yes.
Should Thibaut Pinot retire at the end of the season?
No.
In general, were you disappointed with the amount of GC action we saw?
Yes.
Would Remco Evenepoel have won this Giro without his forced abandon on the first rest day?
Yes.
I've got the spores, the sickness. There's the twins in my brain.
Grande Partenza, rain, crashes, COVID, illness, and Primoz Roglic winning the Maglia Rosa. The last 3 weeks has been filled with joy, drama, tears, and smiles. The first Grand Tour of the season is over. The second one is right around the corner. The peloton doesn't rest, so we don't rest either. It's time to look back at an interesting third week in Italy and the winners of this year's Giro. Once again, a lot to talk about in this Domestique Cycling Podcast episode. Joining me today once again is Bram. How are you doing today? No post-Giro depression?
Oh no, there's definitely some post-Giro depression. I can't even watch another bike race right now. It's just I know there's racing going on. It's just I need a little bit of a break. It's been a long 3 weeks with a lot of good racing, so can't complain about that either.
It's only the two of us today, but that doesn't make this review less exciting. Let's dive right into it with stage 16. It was a GC group that went to the line, or at least a GC man, João Almeida, conquering the Monte Bondone, a tough climb where he dropped Primoz Roglic. How did you witness that stage?
Yeah, it was really surprising. A moment of weakness from Roglic, and a show of strength of Almeida, an Almeida that attacks. It's not something that we're used to seeing. And so far this Giro, by the end of the Giro, it's also the only time that it happened. But Almeida's not a person who wins a lot of races because of his not so attacking style, but he shows that he's capable of doing it. And dropping Roglic and everyone except for Geraint Thomas is special.
Yeah, that stage had 5,852 altitude meters, so it was the toughest stage on paper when looking at the amount of climbing that had to be done. And it was the first stage of a brutal third week with a lot of climbing. But I have to say I was really impressed by Almeida. He barely attacks, he doesn't do that often. He just sticks to the group and try to follow as long as possible. But now I think Jumbo controlled the day, and when they were done for, it was UAE taking over with McNulty, if I recall correctly.
I think so, yeah. And then Vine as well.
And the last huge pull from Vine. And then Almeida was very strong, and I thought he's a contender for the Maglia Rosa.
At that moment, it did look like that. But I was mainly impressed by the pull from Vine. The group just ripped apart. It was sort of the first time that we really see Vine in his domestique role. He's done some minor stuff earlier on in the Giro, but that day he was extremely strong. That was such a hard pull.
Yeah, Vine had a tough first 2 weeks with the cold and the rain, but that pull was very impressive, and I'm looking forward to see more of Vine, and not only as a domestique, but maybe try something in a smaller stage race and go for a classification and a bigger one in the future.
I think that's definitely their plans as well. He sort of said in an interview after one of the stages where, he's not there to get a top 10 at a Grand Tour. He's there to be the leader or to win stages or go for the win. He's not there to ride top 10s. He doesn't care about top 10s. And I was kind of a lot of people would do a lot of things to get a top 10 in the Giro, and he's like, no, I don't. That's not what I'm paid for. So
yeah, but it shows his awesome mentality. Only important thing is winning, and a top 10, it's nice for the team maybe, but he doesn't care about it. And I saw a lot of people reacting on Twitter that his interview was a little bit harsh, saying UAE had no strategy before they won that stage, and I don't care. But there was a little bit, they took the wrong things out of that interview, and yeah, I'm looking forward to him the rest of the season. But
Do we know what his season looks like?
I have no idea, to be honest. I know Pogacar and Valens are at the altitude camp preparing for Tour de France. That's already quite impressive. Certainly the Valens part, because at the beginning of May it was uncertain. He still had a surgery, but now he's there together with Tadej, and Tadej is back on his bike as well after his crash in Liège. So gonna be awesome.
The Tour de France is saved.
Almeida was very strong, but once again a very solid Geraint Thomas. He showed he was performing on a very high level, and he was the only one who was able to follow Almeida. At that point, I think we all could say Thomas will fight for this Maglia Rosa till Rome. He was very impressive, actually. He was I think one of the most constant GC riders. Like Roglic had a bad day, then Almeida slipped away a little bit in stage 18 and 19. But yeah, I don't know, G was maybe not in the form of his life, but he was certainly very strong.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Maybe in like the tour that he won, or the tour from last year where he, had to admit defeat to superhumans. Yeah, I think he's been called the master of peaking. I was sort of very on the edge of, I don't think he's going to be able to get back in shape after his kind of difficult early season. But yeah, he definitely surprised me, and all kudos to him.
If I recall correctly, it was only Dieter who believed in Thomas at the start of the Giro.
Josh as well.
Josh as well. Oh, sorry, Josh.
He has to.
In the stage 16, Roglic suffered, but he didn't crack. There was an incredibly strong Kuss to save the day for the Slovenian. Would it been different if Kuss wasn't there for Roglic?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think he would have lost maybe 5 to 10 more seconds. And knowing the end of the Giro, those seconds are important.
Yeah, indeed. My surprise of the day in that stage was Eddie Dunbar. I didn't expect him to be that strong, to be honest.
Yeah, it was, I think, the moment that he moved into 4th in the GC. Yeah, he was up there with Almeida, Thomas, and Roglic, and Kuss. And then you had Dunbar. It's like, in the preseason podcast, we talked about like each of the teams and what we expected of Jayco Lula. And I think I asked, okay, but what do we expect of Eddie Dunbar? And we all said nothing. Because like he is completely unproven in Grand Tour classifications.
Yeah.
And here he was, proving us wrong.
Yeah, very strong 3 weeks in general for the Irishman.
I think it went a little bit wrong in the last TT.
Yeah, but he had some difficulties in the stages before that as well. He dropped like in stage 19. Stage 19. He already dropped some significant time on the others. He stayed within the reach of Caruso, etc. But he wasn't able to follow Almeida or Roglic or Thomas anymore in that last 2 mountain stages. So
no shame in that.
Yeah, no shame. When that stage ended, so talking about stage 16, the stage Almeida one, how did you feel about Roglic? Different sources said he was struggling a bit after a rest day, or he still had to recover from his crash. What did you think after that?
The interviews to finish were a little bit odd, where like he's saying, "Oh yeah, I'm not feeling that well. Still like happy to be here, but not feeling great." I was like, okay, this is going to be kind of difficult for Roglic then. If like he's not feeling great at the start of the hardest week, how is he going to be able to like recover and actually be able to perform in those last couple of really tough stages? So at that point, I was also like, okay, Grant Thomas might actually win this. And well, that day as well, Joe Almeida was right up there. And there was only 18 seconds between Almeida and Thomas. And Almeida was riding it in an attacking way. So it was also an Almeida's to win.
A lot of people were starting to doubt Roglic after that stage. And they weren't wrong, because if you lose 25 seconds in maybe the toughest stage on paper, being Roglic, but I think it's Jumbo's played it very cool and smart and knew what was left in the race. A tough time trial, 2 tough stages. So it was important that they stayed cool and did not panic because they lost because Roglic lost 25 seconds.
Yeah, exactly. Of course, losing 25 seconds in one of the hardest stages is just never a good look. Every competitor will have seen it and thought, we might be able to get him. Because of course he was a pre-race favorite after Remco dropped out.
But when we're looking at the other side, like losing 25 seconds and that's your bad day, then I'll take it. It's only 25 seconds. All right, let's go.
All right, yeah, definitely.
Then the stage after it was the penultimate chance for the sprinters to go for victory. There weren't a lot of sprinting teams left, so there were some doubts initially if it would be a sprint or a big punch, a big breakaway going to the line. But Alberto Dainese took the win after a rather boring breakaway fight. Only 3 or 4 men went up the road, so it was quite easy to control for the bunch. It was actually quite a lovely story, because I saw a video from DSM the day after the stage win, how much Dainese suffered on Monte Bondone to be able to even get to stage 17. That was very impressive to see. Riding on his own, minutes behind the bunch, behind the gruppetto, and then to be able to win that bunch sprint. I think that's a lovely story in this Giro.
Yeah, I mean, it's also part of the tactics for sprinters, of course, that they have to ride as slow as possible the day before a sprinting stage, but still be in the time limit. Of course, he's suffering. He's a big guy going up mountains. He's going to be suffering. But it's best to lose as much time as they can without going OTL. But yeah, it's one of those stages where if you watch the last 4 or 5 kilometers, you've seen the stage. It's always part of a Grand Tour. But yeah, it was a very Italian sprint with a lot of the Italians in the top 5. And again, a very strong Jonathan Milan as well in the Ciclamino.
Yeah, he grabbed 4 times the second place in this year's Giro. And you have to be honest, his positioning in the sprints has always been terrible. He comes from so far back with so much more speed than the others. Yeah, and then he's just not able to take that second stage or third stage win. There were a lot of tears with Arne Marit as well. After his chain dropped, he said it himself, he was in the perfect position and he had the legs to win. It was actually quite emotional to see him like that.
Yeah, he was clearly very emotional about it. And it is just like the days before, you have to pull everything out of yourself to get yourself over those mountains. And this was then the penultimate sprinting chance. There would be another one in Rome, but then you have to get to Rome, which is uncertain with this very hard last week. Then to just drop your chain and not be able to sprint any further. The fact that he didn't crash because of it is incredible. But to be fair, like within the team, you had Bonifacio sprinting at the same time. When we had Arne on the podcast, we did sort of touch upon it, like having the 2 sprinters on, and like one would be given the opportunity in more hilly stages, and Arne would get them in flat stages. This was a stage as flat as they come, but somehow Bonifacio still is able to sprint pretty well, and he wasn't doing a lead out for
no, he was going for his own chances. It was like Yeah, he wasn't doing a leader at all. Is Arne able to win a Grand Tour stage in the future?
I think so. Of course, he's still quite young, so it's difficult to see where he's gonna go. But maybe not the Tour. Like the Tour is the highest of the honors for sprinters, but the Giro or Vuelta stages for sure. In the end, that's also like how a guy like Philipsen began. I think his first Grand Tour stage win was in the Vuelta. So if he can start there, why not? But I think just getting some wins under the belt for his confidence, that will help him.
Is it a thing that he should stay at Intermarché to become even better? Or going to another team might help him a little bit more? Like Intermarché is a team, it's a very strong team. They have a lot of victories already this season. But like sprinting train-wise, it's not top of the bill. Like he already said himself, he has some trouble with positioning, and when he's in the perfect position, he's able to compete for the win. He likes to be in Wheel of Rex, but it's not like Intermarché has a sprint train available.
Well, if you look at their whole team roster, I think they do.
Yeah.
But they're kind of sending them to separate races, and even let's say the second tier sprinters in their team are being given the option to go for wins. Yeah. So for example, a Mike Teunissen, normally you would expect him to do leadouts. But I think
they have
the Tour of Norway
as well. So,
Teunissen, of course, is very high level, beats Ewan twice now in the same year. He actually beat him this time very clearly. They have a couple guys as well, like what's his name now?
Johansson is quite strong as well. He's a track rider. I saw him in the 6 days of Gent riding, and that guy can do a lead out. I'm sure of that.
Vliegen as well.
Yeah, indeed. So the riders are there, but it's like their main sprinter is probably Herben Thijssen, and Thijssen deserves to be the main sprinter, certainly after beating Ewan once again and getting some nice victories. But Maric should get some of that sprint train now and then as well, in my opinion.
For sure. I mean, there was some of it at the Giro. It just very rarely worked out.
Yeah, indeed. We can move over to stage 18. We saw once again tears from Thibaut Pinot after he lost the sprint against Filippo Zana on Val di Zoldo. Yeah, Thibaut Pinot and this year's Giro. I don't like to say it, but he rode a little bit like an amateur. In those stages he could win.
I think he rode like someone with a lot of passion. But
that's
the one thing you can't say about Pinot is that he doesn't have passion for his sport. It's just he wants it so much, that last victory, that
he wanted it too much even. And it's actually quite sad. It's sad to see because, like I asked in the 4 introduction questions, like, should Thibaut Pinot retire at the end of the season? You said no, and I completely agree because he proved once again he's still competing with the best. Mm-hmm. And it's so sad to see a rider like him leave the peloton. I think his biggest issue is the mental part of being a cyclist. And you see that in stages like this where he gets very emotional and
it's also a French rider in a French team. I think it's something special that a lot of people don't, it's hard to understand how much pressure that brings. As well as if he targets the Tour de France, he's not able to ride an anonymous Tour de France ever. Just because of he's Thibaut Pinot.
But he should maybe, instead of retire, move teams, because Bardet was quite a long time at AG2R as well. Then he's decided to leave the friendship and go to DSM. where he actually is performing very strong, and he decided to skip the Tour last year, I think, or no, he got COVID before the Giro. I don't remember anymore, but Bardet is stronger when he left Age Desert. He's stronger now than he was.
Mm-hmm. I think Dieter can explain that based on training methods of the French teams.
Yeah, indeed.
But yeah, also he's 33. I'm talking about Pinot again. I don't think he's ready to go. Like, he's still got 5th in a Grand Tour, winning the KOM.
And he wants to go to the Tour de France right now. It's only 5 weeks from here, and he wants to go to the Tour.
I think he just wants to like get everything out of his body that he can, and then probably he will want to retire because it's going to be so hard on him. He's just going to be so dead inside.
Zana took a beautiful win in the Italian national jersey, but should he be disqualified?
Yes. Sorry, but there's that clip of him getting a very sticky beat on that is just way too much. Like, is it a stage-winning sticky beat on? No. But there are rules around sticky beat ons, and if you do them, you get relegated or you get disqualified. There was not even a fine for it. That's the crazy part. It's just like, it's on, like, just on television. Everyone saw it, but it's the Italian champion winning a stage at the Giro d'Italia, so it's fine.
Vadim Pronsky still has a cold, I think.
Oh yeah, that car came by him really fast.
That was, it's difficult. He should be disqualified. I completely agree with that. But I just don't understand why the team did it, because Zana had good legs. It wasn't that he was dropped. He just went back to the car for a bidon, etc. So it didn't even have a real purpose. So that makes it even more stupid, in my opinion.
Agree. But do you have a question? Do you want him to be disqualified or relegated?
Yeah, if he's relegated, he's second.
Yeah.
Isn't there in the road book a disqualification for that? In the rule book?
I'm not sure. I know I'm the stickler for the UCI rule book, but...
Yeah, you are, so come on, Bram. Up your game.
To be fair,
no, I don't know.
UCI rule book doesn't get followed, so it's meaningless.
Yeah, that's true. Let's move on. Derek G, edition 6. It was his 6th day in the breakaway. What a legend. He loves birds, but I love him.
Definitely. He doesn't like riding in the peloton, I think. We've said that in the past about like a Thomas Gent, but Derek G likes it even less. I really regret missing the podcast last week because he seemed like such a nice guy. It's also like the messages in the radio. I think the team released them afterwards. Like, yeah, Derek, just follow these guys. I'm like, my legs are kind of dead, but okay.
Yeah, it's so lovely to see. Like, there was a Sporza article stating from nobody to hero, and actually before the Giro, who knew Derek G?
I definitely didn't.
I knew him from his puncture in Bosval-Valais, or Arenberg in Paris-Roubaix, where his tire exploded away from his wheel.
Oh, right, that was him as well. See, I didn't even remember that.
That was him. So yeah, it's edition 6 from Derek G, but there is an edition 7 coming in the next stage. But stick a little bit with stage 18. Roglic did a small attack. Thomas followed quite easily, and the only loser of that day was Almeida, who loses some more ground. After that stage, and after you saw that Roglic attack, did your thoughts change after you saw what happened on Monte Bondoni, where he dropped 25 seconds? Did it change after?
It's like he shows that he's still got fight in him. He's not getting worse, which is really important in that last week. So there was like a little bit of an upwards trajectory, which definitely continued later on. But in the end, he still had to like drop Geraint Thomas, and that didn't happen. So it was still advantage for Geraint Thomas.
Yeah, completely agree. I liked it. I liked it that he still was eager to attack. That he showed this Giro isn't over till it's over. So I loved seeing Roglic attack. And in stage 19, it went even to a second round. It was again a breakaway win. This time for Santiago Buitrago on Tre Cime di Laverdo. He gets what he came for, a stage win in this Giro. After some domestique work for Caruso, he was able to go for it in the last real stage that suited him. And he was actually quite impressive, although our Chima copyman, Derek G Edition 7, was more impressive in my opinion with his body weight.
Yeah. Getting him that far into that stage with like second to Buitrago and then, behind him, Magnus Kort, which is also incredible that
in
he
a
is up
stage
there.
like that, there were 5,423 stage altitude meters, and when you look at that top three, all right, Buitrago and then G and Magnus Kort, like how?
Yeah, the weight physics sometimes in cycling don't make sense. Like you can see Wout van Aert doing this as well sometimes, where like the guy's is about 80 kilos. He shouldn't be able to do this.
No.
But they do. It makes no sense. But hey, here they are. Yeah.
And Buitrago was hurting to catch up to G. Like I saw an interview saying he was keeping him in sights and just waiting to crawl him back. But it was tough for Santiago Buitrago as well.
Definitely, you could see like the gap was not getting closed. So G went and Buitrago took a long time to catch him. There was like he kept being at the same distance, and of course you could say that he was just pacing himself and waiting for the right moment. And in the end, G did have to concede 51 seconds, but I think he just knocked off the effort. Because why? He's still got another 50 seconds back on Kort, so he didn't need to ride, and he already got that second place down.
In the GC group, there was a Roglic attack, a counter from Thomas, and a Roglic sprint to gain 3 seconds. On that sprint from Roglic was pure grinta. The way he was able to catch back up to Thomas, who had a little gap, and then sprint away from him on that steep slope at the finish. Impressive once again from Roglic, but on the other side, looking at that, only 3 seconds, and there was only the time trial remaining. I wouldn't be too happy for that, but yeah, he was able to win the Maglia Rosa, of course. But
I agree. It's a typical Roglic finish, of course. Like the huge kick at the end that he has to just get to the line. It's vintage Roglic.
Yeah, I liked it how he went for it and just grinded his way to the finish line and countered Thomas. I'm a fan of Thomas as well. Don't understand me wrong, but I just liked the duel between them, the fight, the battle, and it was quite nice to see. Almeida was, I have to say it, out of the game after that stage. He wasn't able to win the Maglia Rosa anymore. He lost too much time after that. He was on 59 seconds in the general, if I recall correctly. Funny part is that Kort sprinted for the 3 bonification seconds in front of Roglic. Was it intentional?
I think it's more of a reflex that, I gotta sprint for my place.
But he went all out. It was so funny to see.
Yeah, I mean, he really wanted that podium spot, I guess, although you don't really get to go on the podium. I don't know. It seems so odd. I don't think there's like a beef between Magnus Kort and Roglic. I haven't heard anything about
has
that.
beef with everyone.
Yeah, EF really went to war with everyone in this Giro. Kind of love it. It's a story in itself. But it's also the stage that Eddie Dunbar basically, dropped out of contention for fourth place as well. I think he lost more than about a minute and a half to the big guys. So, yeah, that was the dream over for him there.
Yeah, on Friday evening, so after stage 19, there was only one important stage remaining, the uphill time trial. How did you think this Giro would end at that time? Friday evening, you're sitting in the sofa, looking back at the stage. Who wins the Giro?
I thought it would be Geraint Thomas, to be honest. We hadn't seen Roglic really drop Thomas, except for this 3 seconds in the sprint, which is meaningless. So, yeah, it was, okay, Geraint Thomas is equally strong to Roglic, but I think Roglic had a bit of a home advantage at the time trial. The amount of Slovenian fans there is insane. I've never seen anything like it.
It was crazy to see. I have to be honest, I rewatched that stage, or I rewatched Almeida, Thomas and Roglic. The others didn't matter, to be honest. Sorry. But yeah, the amount of Slovenians on the roads was crazy and very impressive to see. So I had the same idea, like Roglic couldn't drop Thomas, so I had the idea he would win the time trial, but he wouldn't be able to get that Maglia Rosa. But putting in 45 seconds, if I recall correctly, into Thomas,
I think it was 40, but yeah.
That's impressive, including that mechanical. You said he was saving himself for the time trial. He had a little bit of energy for that time trial, and I have to agree, because from not dropping Thomas in tough stages to, a little bit demolish him with 40 seconds, including a mechanical, he had something extra.
I think it's also with the mechanical. First of all, the mechanical is kind of his own fault because of the gearing they chose. That massive gravel gear, and then the one by on the front, which is more likely to drop a chain. So doing that, I think it sort of gave him an adrenaline rush that he was actually able to put that effort in from that point forward, because you actually see the time gap that he opens up, the 40 seconds. It's entirely in the last KM. So that's insane that he just found that power after that mechanical. So just adrenaline rush. I do also have some questions about Geraint Thomas's helmet switch and the choices that are made there. They're so known, Ineos is so known for their marginal gain strategy. And I understand that the helmet switch could be a marginal gain, but the huge amount of seconds lost there is definitely not going to help.
I know Dieter isn't here to talk us through marginal gains and saving 2 or 3 watts, but when I saw that, I said, why? It took him so long to take off that time trial helmet to put on his normal helmet, and then I didn't understand. He lost a second or 6, 7 on Roglic in that switch, and I don't believe that will make you 7 seconds faster, to be honest.
Potentially. I will say that those time trial helmets get really hot, but if I had to look at who was the warmest of Thomas or Roglic, I would have to say that Thomas looked a lot warmer. He was sweating a lot during the last part of that time trial, and he was wearing the lighter climbing helmet.
Yeah, indeed. There was once again a romantic story on the final climb of this Giro. Ex-teammate ski jumping helps Roglic back on his bike after that mechanical. What a coincidence.
You can't make this stuff up, can you? It's the beauty of cycling, where you have these stories that probably in 20 or 25 years, a cycling commentator is going to bring back He was like, oh, I've never heard this. And it's one of the romantic sort of cycling where a spectator can actually be someone that you know very well, and that gives you one of the strongest pushes I've seen on an uphill start in a long time. I think he got compared to a bobsleigh pusher because of the huge speed at which Roglic was able to set back off.
But there were thousands of Slovenians on that mountain, and just where Roglic get that mechanical, that man is there. I think it's lovely to see. If you would read it in a book, you would say it's fiction, but it's incredible to see. There was a lot of tension on that climb. The time indications were, excuse me for the word, shit. We really didn't know what was happening, but at the end Roglic showed he was the strongest that day. I saw some things in our group chat saying Thomas had some carbs or whatever. I saw Dieter saying something about it, and he had troubles with his stomach, but I think it came in the What's Occurring podcast, but then they were not talking about it very much, so I'm quite interested to see or to know what it is, but we probably will never know.
It's the bicarbonate. Like, it's meant to give some performance boost, but it also messes up your stomach. It's something that has been talked about quite a bit already this year at the start of the year, because Jumbo also does it. But it can really backfire, and maybe that's what Tom's experienced.
And could it have a link with his heavy sweating as well? Because I saw no one sweating like Thomas did. I watched some other riders as well after it, but he was sweating like a horse.
I don't know about that, but potentially. It's just, well, I think he just kind of overcooked it. But anyway.
Special mention to showman Lorenz Rex, who just loved some wheelies and just enjoyed his last days in Italy. But Cavendish enjoyed it as well. He clapped some hands, and he seemingly didn't care about time limits, but the organizers decided to change the 30% rule into a 50% rule. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, the fact that it gets announced during the stage after most of the sprinters have already set off or have already finished, that's the real problem. If before the stage they say, okay, time limit is 50% because they want to keep everyone in, fine. I think it's dull, but fine. Looking back at it, if it was 30%, nobody would have been OTL either. So they didn't even have to change it. So there's like a lot of discussion about, oh yeah, they changed it to 50%, and like it's really bad from them. But if they had kept it at 30%, everyone would have been in the time limit as well. So big storm in a glass for nothing.
When we're talking about that OTL thing, I recall a couple of years ago, the half of the Groupama team had to leave the Tour de France because they stayed with Demar and they were OTL. But since then, I don't recall a sprinter getting OTL'd anymore. Are the sprinters climbing better? Or how does it come that there are no OTLs anymore right now in comparison to a couple of years ago?
I think you said it, that they're climbing better, that it becomes part of their job, that they have to get over those mountains. If you're a Grand Tour sprinter and you can't do it, then, well, you're not going to be a Grand Tour sprinter for long. So the percentages of time that you can be over hasn't changed. It's mostly 20 or 30%. So, yeah, it's a little bit... It's a bit weird, but at the same time, it makes perfect sense.
The Cavendish 5 years ago was faster in a sprint, but was slower on the climbs, because he was never in difficulties this year with the time limit. He climbed very well. He was among the last to finish, but he still had always a couple of minutes left to finish. So
yeah, but you see that with the climbing, the sprinters also going on altitude camp. with, for example, Jakobsen right now being on Tede. That involves a lot of riding up that volcano. So obviously he's going to become a better climber and be able to get over those mountains better.
The last stage in Rome, Bram, take us through the love story of this Giro d'Italia.
Well, it's kind of going to be difficult because I only know the results because I didn't watch the stage. Sorry, but the procedural stages of Grand Tours, the ceremonial stages, I find them extremely boring and I think they shouldn't exist. But anyway,
take us through the last 5K, please.
Okay. Oh, I wish Josh was here. He could do this so well. Well, it's a piece of beauty where Geraint Thomas, absolute legend, sees at the 3 km limit, he's at the front of the bunch being safe, and he sees over his shoulder Luis Lon Sanchez and Mark Cavendish towards the front, and he's like, I'll help these guys out a bit to make sure that Cav can win a stage. And then he does a monumental pull on the front of the peloton for over a kilometer to deliver Cav near the front of the bunch. And it's, well, then I think Gaviria goes very early, being Gaviria.
400 meters to go once again.
I mean, that's what he does. Like, you can just know that Gaviria is basically an actual lead-out guy.
Yeah, he's a perfect leader guy.
So then Cav waits a bit and then jumps into the hole and passes him, and everyone else comes too late. And then Cav wins the stage in his last Giro.
Tears, happiness, joy. How did you feel after that? I know George isn't here. It's a pity because he was very emotional. This weekend was just very tough for him.
Yeah, first losing it with Thomas and then getting the stage with Cav. Very emotional day for British cycling in general. I thought, I was just surprised when I heard. I was at a barbecue and someone said, oh, Cavendish won. Wait, what?
What?
I was expecting, like, okay, you're going to have a Milan or a Gaviria, like the guys who'd already, been up there or won a stage already. But not a single sprinter in this Giro has won more than a single stage. That's incredible. And of course, having Cav win it is special. I think it's sort of a precursor of if he does it at the Tour.
Can he win it in the Tour? Can he do it?
I think he can, but he needs the right set of circumstances. He needs the Geraint Thomas lead out.
Well, if it happens, if he takes that one more Tour de France stage win, it's gonna be monumental. The tweets, social media, history.
Oh yeah, for sure.
History is written, and he's in the history books. He already is, but now he's on his own, leader of amount of stage wins in the Tour.
I mean, he's already considered to be the best sprinter of all time. I don't think anyone's going to argue about that. The most Tour stages, it's a very symbolic thing because nobody is going to contest saying that, oh, Cav is less of a sprinter than Eddy Merckx. Of course he's not. It's just special, and I think he just wants that so bad. And I hope he gets it.
Yeah, I hope as well. A special mention to Pascal Ackermann, the sprinter who is more than a sprinter. He sadly crashed in the final stage, but he went over the finish line and he was smiling again. That guy is enjoying his life so hard.
Yeah, every stage, I think every stage where he's had to drop, by the way, when he was in those mountain stages, he dropped when there's like 30 guys left in the bunch. And then he starts smiling at the camera, like being so happy with his performances and just the way he's riding. I think it's amazing to see. Because at the start of this year, you would say he's kind of done as a sprinter. And his results have not been that great. But then he wins the stage in this Giro. and everything is looking very sunny.
Yeah.
And just that smile, like he's
He has
so
a
happy.
lovely
You
smile,
cannot be
to be
happy
honest.
for him.
Yeah, he has a lovely smile. It's a joy to see him like that. It's quite impressive. He climbs very well. He works for his teammates, and he casually sprints towards his run to stage win once again. So I would smile as well. But it's really nice to see a smile like that in the pro peloton. So 21 stages in the Giro, 3 rough, tough weeks in Italy with rain, cold. And the final GC, the winner, the Maglia Rosa, Primoz Roglic. Closely followed by Geraint Thomas on 14 seconds. I think it's the second closest time gap ever in the Giro, if I recall correctly. There was one closer Giro.
Yeah, but that was long ago.
Yeah, and then the third place, João Almeida. So that 3 guys were a level above the others. And then we had quite an entertaining fight till the end between Caruso, Pinot, Arends van Dunbar dropped away quite massively the last 3 stages. But looking at the top 10, who's surprising you the most? And you can only name one name.
Leknesund. Has to be. Whoever said before the Giro that, first of all, he'd wear La Maglia Rosa for the days that he did, and then still be in the top 10 of the GC. It's an incredible performance. Of course, there's a couple other ones where you might have a De Plus who's there as a domestique, and you can say, who would have said that before the start of the Giro, that you have a De Plus at the top 10 of the Giro GC? But Leknesund is one of those young guys that, if developed properly, can come back for a podium or more.
Yeah, I think he has an agreement with Uno X for next year. So
I think he's going to get some wild cards.
It's going to be interesting for sure. What about Ineos? 3 guys in the top 10, but no Maglia Rosa.
I don't think that, the domestiques were good. In the end, it was just a man-to-man fight against Roglic, and then Thomas came out a little bit underneath. The team was amazingly strong. I think Ineos was much stronger than a Jumbo. But yeah, have the 3 guys in the top 10 is, I don't think I've seen that before, even from Ineos or Sky. But it just goes to show that Arensman and De Plus are not just regular domestiques. They can do more. And I'm very curious. At De Plus, at the start of the season, you kind of think, okay, he's kind of done at Ineos. His contract is up. Where's he going to go next year? But now that Ineos have seen this performance at the Giro, I don't think they'll want to let him go.
Will he stay or will he join the mountain train from Mr. Remco Evenepoel? He's Belgian.
Yeah, and he's a real team player, and of course he's ridden for Quickstep before, so he knows the team. He has got some good relationships there. And I think he likes Remco as well. But
would you like to see him in the mountain train of Remco?
Of course. I think he is, together with Van Wilder, top level domestic power. That you just, and the thing with the Plus that is different from Van Wilder is that the Plus doesn't have an ambition to win a GC or go for a good GC. He said before, I want to be a good teammate. I want to be the best teammate in this Giro. That's what he said. Whereas Van Wilder is doing contract negotiations with Quickstep that include being able to go for GC opportunities in smaller races. Those are 2 very different domestique types, and I think the Plus is a much better one to have as a leader, as if you're a leader.
For Soudal Quickstep, this good performance from the Plus might be not too good if they want to negotiate a contract. He'll probably Sky will give him a pay raise after that impressive effort. And Patrick Lefevre always says he has no money. So it might not be
if he
a
lets
good...
go of Alaphilippe, then he might have some money.
And then Van Velder finishing 12th, if I recall correctly, knowing he dropped 3 minutes in the time trial to save energy for Remco Evenepoel. Does that change things within the team?
No, I think it's sort of in line with what the team was thinking. Van Velder is very capable and very talented to do these things. And I think also in the first week, he definitely just let go of the group before he had to conserve a little bit of energy as well. So let's say that he lost 4 minutes that he didn't really have to.
Yep.
If you add those 4 minutes back, he's pretty solid in top 10.
Yeah, I'm actually quite impressed by Van Velder. I knew he was good, but he was able to stick quite long with his GC men time after time after time. So he will be happy with his Giro, I think, as well.
Oh, very happy.
Then we go over to the final points classification. We have 4 names in there that we could have predicted in there. Ackerman, Cavendish, Matthews, Jonathan Milan. And then we have a certain Canadian bird lover in there as well. Derek G, only a little bit more than 50 points behind Milan.
It's incredible.
I think also he can't sprint.
I mean, he says he can't, and he did say in the podcast that he loses every sprint with his training group. Yeah, the thing is, he just picks up the points on the breakaways, and that's how like a Sagan used to do it. But of course, Sagan is a much more capable sprinter. The amount of UCI points that Derek G takes from this Giro for Israel Premier Tech is insane. I think in 3 years' time, when the relegation battle wraps up, Israel is going to promote and has to give a big thanks to Derek G for this Giro, because the amount of points that he got for them is ridiculous.
4 times second, I think, and then or 2 times fourth. I don't know. He has been up there a lot.
Yeah, I think it was 4 times second, and then, well, basically a lot of the classifications as well.
Then the final mountain classification, we see once again 1 non-climber in there. Derek G mentions he isn't a sprinter, and he mentions he's too heavy to be a climber. But look, he's second in that classification as well.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, he never seemed to be like going for it either.
No.
It's just like it sort of happened because he was just in the break a lot, and he just kept picking up some points, but not really going full gas for it. Like a Pinot, you saw, okay, he needs those points.
Yeah.
He wants those points, but he was just like, well, I'll follow. Like, whatever.
It's only 37 points between him and Pinot, so that's not a lot. And I recall in that stage 20, he didn't get a single point, Derek G, because he wasn't interested in that, and it was a first category climb, so it would have even been closer. So, yeah, phenomenal. We saw a nice mano-a-mano fight between Healy and Pinot. Education first against Groupama, voters against the French team after the Cepeda war they fought earlier in the Giro. That was quite funny to see. Healy is one of a kind.
Yeah, just the style of his riding is mainly what I love. He just loves to attack, a bit like G, but also he just keeps going. I think the stage that you're talking about, the stage 19, where there's a break up the road, and Healy is basically the only threat to Pinot for the classification. The break's 5 minutes up the road, and Healy starts attacking. And Pinot has to follow because he could not take the risk, which means Pinot has to put his own GC at risk because he's wasting energy following Healy. I think he's just The reactions of the jumbo riders when they saw it was beautiful because they knew what was going on. Like Healy was just taking the piss out of Pinot and attacking him for no reason, and Pinot had to respond. He can't be happy about that.
I remember the face from Salvatore Puccio as well. He was saying, "What the hell are you doing?" And give us a break, because it always created some nervous reaction within the peloton, and Ineos didn't want that. It was lovely to see. So yeah, this Giro, we all once again talking 55 minutes about it, and we said it would only be 45. So I have 3 more questions for you to end off this episode. Your surprise of the Giro?
Derek G.
I'm not going to ask why, because we talked enough about it. Your disappointment of the Giro?
RCS.
Why?
Because they somehow are not able to organize a bike race without controversy. It's always has to be something like putting riders together with fans in the gondolas down the mountain, the helicopter stuff. It's always something with RCS, and you know that.
Yeah. And last question, your moment of this Giro?
I thought about this. I still want to pick the egg from the first week, because I still don't understand. We said we were going to ask Automatis, but then forgot. I still want to know what that egg is about.
So that's your moment of the Giro, the egg?
I do not understand the egg joke. I want to understand.
Oh damn, this has
It
been
will
a
haunt me
boring
forever.
Giro. A boring
I mean,
Giro.
it has been a boring Giro for the most part. So yes, the egg is my moment of the Giro.
All right, perfect. I think we can end off this episode, Bram.
What are yours?
My surprise of the Giro is Thibaut Pinot getting 5th in the general classification. Disappointment of the Giro is the amount of COVID infections and illnesses that, it's ruined a little bit the party. The fight we were all waiting for, Remco against Roglic, but Vlasov as well. Other teams decimated, Ghana as well. And my moment of the Giro, that's a tough one. One of the moments of the Giro might be Healy going rogue in stage 19 and just taking the piss out of everyone and just say, well, let's go, I don't care. That might be my moment. Or the Walters war against Armstrong on Twitter. It's a little bit... That was quite fun as well, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely for the cycling community, that was just a spectacle to behold. Good moment.
Yeah. All right, the honor is yours.
That's a wrap for today's Domestique Cycling Podcast. A big thank you to our audience for tuning in. If you enjoyed the episode, consider supporting us on Ko-Fi, link in the description. And if you're on YouTube, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. We appreciate your support and look forward to seeing you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I've got the spores, the sickness. There's the twins in my brain.